Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. I'll introduce myself. I kind of figure that my name and who I am is actually written on the thumbnail, but just in case you're not aware, I'm Anah Parreli, and I try and deliver videos that are going to be useful and beneficial to you. This does not mean that the information I give you is all that there is to know about a subject. It's simply the information that I've gathered today, and I'm a big believer in the more we share information with each other, the more we're able to grow ourselves and develop that pool of knowledge that we have within. And hopefully, the information that I share with you is actually going to be very helpful and empower you to live that life that you envision yourself living and deserving. Now, just so you know, as always, the old as always, I do a Sunday video, and so I might make information or add further information onto a Sunday yarning. Today, obviously, we're going to be talking about sodalite. It's a crystal that I particularly love, uh, one that I've been fascinated with for a long time, and this is because it goes back to when I used to sell crystals at fairs and this kind of thing, and I made the observation, and I had it confirmed from my mentor, that a lot of women are drawn to sodalite. And when you have those conversations with the women, you identify that there's these underlying themes, shall we say, about what encourages them to make their purchase. But this is what we're going to be talking about today, amongst other things, of course. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight in. Oh, before I do, though, did I say thank you for joining me? Because that's what I meant to say. Thank you for joining me. I also meant to say, and I forgot because I was busy talking about myself, and introducing myself. I forgot to mention, look, sometimes I go down a waffle, I take that rabbit warren, I get distracted, and I go off on a tangent. So even though I've got scripts, I deviate from them. And for these reasons, I put timing chapters into the description so you can jump back and forth to whatever areas interest you. And then later on down the track, you might decide that you want to come back and take a look again, and you know exactly what part of the video you want to go to. So, for example, if you want to know more about the buying or the mineral type information because you're looking at making a purchase, you can jump straight to that section. Or if it's, I've bought a crystal and I've bought X and I wonder what the properties are because I felt drawn to it. But anyway, that's the idea. So anyway, let's jump in for now. So when I'm talking about sodalite, this is the crystal that I'm referring to. Um, if you're familiar with crystals and you know about them, you probably recognize them. These are actually pretty good samples or examples of what sodalite actually looks like if you've managed to get a bit in your hand. Now, this is one of those times where you go, where I go, I don't know about you, but I go, beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, because I don't actually consider sodalite to be the most beautiful of crystals. It's got its beauty, but I think if I was really drawn to a beautiful crystal and wanting to have something of the beautiful blue, shall we say, lapis is always going to be up there. As number one. Now, interesting point here is that sometimes it's confused. Sodalite is confused with lapis, but if you look at them side by side, you're going to know that there is absolutely, well, from where I sit, they're nothing alike. I don't understand how people can become confused by it. Anyway, apparently it was given its name in Greenland in 1811, so it's not a new crystal. It's one that's been around, at least on the Western radar, for quite a while now. Over 200 years. So as far as the Zodiac and Sodalite goes, it's supposed to be recommended for the star signs Sagittarius and Virgo. As always, I'm going to throw that disclaimer in there of, I can't see why. I don't understand why. If you guys know why they make these links towards the Astro, can you let me know, please? I have a feeling the more I do this stuff that it is actually about the numerology associated with the name, and then the numerology links to the star sign. But somebody out there might actually be able to tell me more about that. But anyway, going back to it, it doesn't matter if you're not one of these star signs, you will be able to work with sodalite. if you're drawn to it. And the best way to establish that, of course, is to go into a retailer or whatever and actually to hold the crystals in your hand and work out which ones you're drawn to. I suppose in some ways, though, that when we talk about sodalite, if we look at the properties of it, I can see why a Sag might be drawn to it, because they've got a very heightened sense of justice and order. This is when they're upright, of course. And the Virgos also can tend to be perfectionists. And the spin of both of these qualities and traits is that when things are out of order or out of alignment or fail to meet the person's expectations, it can actually have this spin-off really disconcerting consequence to people's behaviours, you know. What have I written here? Just, I guess the best way of describing it is, for example, the Virgo might really struggle with disappointment at being let down because other people may have failed to meet their expectations, or they may have failed to meet their own expectations themselves. And that will be a hard burden to carry, but Sodalite would be able to assist them through that. So just briefly, as an overview, sodalite is considered to be a stone of truth. Basically, when you're working with it, if you're trying to actually improve yourself, if you've made that commitment to yourself that you want to reach your potential, you want to live, or you choose, want always creates lack. So you're choosing to be the best person that you can be, or the best spirit that you can be. Well, sodalite's going to assist with that because it is a stone of truth. That means that you can no longer, I was going to say a word that might not be appropriate, but whatever, you can no longer deceive yourself. Okay, when you start working with sodalite, the truth is going to come up. And not all things that we want to look at are actually at a glance might be things that we really want to see. That's why we have repressed memories, or we push down those things that we don't want to see. That's that self-denial. Well, logically, even the best people, as in the people that are best at denying and repressing, they will logically know at some part of themselves that if they really want to achieve their potential, they've got to unpack that stuff. They've got to pull it out, take a look at it, be honest with themselves, and establish that some stuff needs to let go or be let go of, and actually some stuff isn't really as bad as what they think it is. Some stuff, once they unpack it, I'm actually being preemptive here. Yes, look, once we've unpacked it and processed it, none of that stuff that we repressed is that bad, shall we say. Just my thoughts. But anyway, getting back to what Sodalite can help you with, it's actually opens a person up to their psychic gifts, including the intuition being the gut instinct. Now, I do recognise not everybody is going to want to open up to their psychic gifts. A lot of people are frightened about it, and that's okay. So if they want to use Sodalite, remember, you're attuning your crystals. I've got a video up about that as well. And you are programming your crystals to assist you in whatever way it was. So we'll be talking about the other properties in a little while, but if you're trying to overcome things like poor impulse control, perhaps aggressive behavior, if there are traits about yourself that you really actually don't like and you're making a conscious decision to shift past them, then you can still work with them. You just dedicate your crystal to those traits that you want to change. And that could be enhancing verbal expression, which I probably would benefit from today, but whatever. Emotional balance is a big one for Sodalite, and this calming, all of these, extreme emotional responses. So just putting up the old disclaimer here that I'm not a geologist, I'm not a gemologist. I am quite simply a person that loves crystals, and I like to add to my personal collection. And in the process, I, have developed a certain amount of knowledge, and that relates to the selling and buying aspects as well. But there are still some things that are just beyond my pay grade when it comes to the academic learning, shall we say. And this is, I'll explain to you why, tectosilicate. What does that mean? I don't even really care, actually, but that's apparently, the geos can tell us that if they really want to. It's just the way it's formed, I believe. What I'm interested in, and you're probably interested in as well, seeing as we're not geos, is I want to know how hard the crystal is, and I want to know how resilient it is to being dropped and things like that. I want to know what colors it comes in, and I also want to know things like, well, where is it found, where is it sourced, stuff like that. Now, in answer to those few questions that I've just given, it's not particularly hard. It's not super soft. We can see here on the mineral hardness score, it is a 5.5 to a 6. So that means it can become damaged, okay? But it still has a certain amount of resilience to it. What I didn't know until I was doing this video is that it comes in this wide range of colours, the white, the pale yellow, green, dark blue, blah, blah, grey, pink and violet, okay? I mean, I had seen sodalite tumbles with pink upon them as well, okay? And I had seen them with a little bit of yellow, but I didn't realise that that was part of the sodalite itself. So there you go. That's a new thing, a new bit of learning for you. What I did find, of course, was this amazing photograph, which is pretty old, I would say, looking at the lady's clothes, where she's sitting on this natural rock. Oh, a boulder, shall we say, of sodalite. I mean, can you imagine owning the property? If that was outside your door, that would just be phenomenal. Okay, so I think it's really good for us to actually see what a rock looks like in its natural state, and this is what we get in this photograph. When we talk about sodalite being brittle, well, it's got those cracks in it, those natural cracks and flaws, so that should tell you pretty well straight away. If you drop it, it's quite likely it's going to actually break and crack along those natural flawed spaces. I think what they call them, technically speaking, is seams or clefts, and that's the white part that we saw in the crystal ball. As far as locations go, where it can be found, it's still found in Greenland. The important thing I think here to understand, and this was new to me because, as I say, I can give you a certain amount of information. It doesn't mean I've got all of it. And when I do the research, yes, I usually find out extra pieces. What I wasn't aware of is that there is another form of sodalite called hackmanite, and that is the photograph on the right-hand side. Now, hackmanite, I'm not going to talk too much about it. You can do your Googling yourself, but you can see it is a slightly different colour. It's more of, I would say, even a lavender blue. But my understanding is that with hackmanite, which is only found in Greenland, I think, it's got a fluorescence to it, which is pretty incredible and amazing. The relevance of actually knowing this is because if you were being sold sodalite at hackmanite prices, you'd be getting ripped off. Sodalite in itself is a little on the pricey side. I will give you some buying tips in a minute, but it's not the most pricey crystal that you're ever going to find around the world, and this is because it's relatively abundant, okay? It's not super rare. Quality is always a big part of it. If you're wanting to have sodalite that's got this really dark blue color to it, obviously the deeper the blue color, the more collectible it is. And crystals like sodalite are not just attractive to us people that love crystals and like to work with them and believe they've got metaphysical properties. The rock hounds, the prospectors and the geos, the ones that will actually get out there and dig it out the dirt, they actually like it as well. So if it's a good piece of sodalite, the rock hounds are going to want to have it. So that will inflate the prices as well. You've got more people competing with it. But anyway, there are apparently a couple of mines in Canada, so I'll give you some locations here. Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia, if you're from Canada. Mount Mather Creek and Ice River are supposed to be the locations of sodalite in Canada, unless it's changed. So let me know if it's changed. In the US, apparently you can find it at Maine and, I read this word as Arkansas, but I'm pretty sure it's Arkansas. Arkansas or Arkansas, I don't know, pronunciations, whatever. Anyway, there's supposed to be a deposit of fluorescent sodalite, which is the hackmanite, that is found at an upper peninsula in Michigan. And then, of course, if you wanted hackmanite, yes, you could still go to Greenland. But other locations, just for you good old-fashioned sodalite, which, incidentally, even though I've said that I don't think it's the most beautiful crystal in the world, I actually still really like having it as part of my collection. and to have it as tumbles there in my home for other people to experience. Anyway, so it's found in Brazil, Bolivia, Portugal, Romania, Burma, Russia, northern Namibia, and the lavas of Vesuvius in Italy. So anyway, plenty of it lying around everywhere. So as you see here, with my little buying tips is also, I probably should change that name to eyeing tips, what you can actually see with your eye. Okay, so the difference really between the lapis and the sodalite is actually not just about the color, okay? Obviously, you can see here in this photograph, lapis is very dark blue. It's a royal blue color. The sodalite in this image, I don't believe is a good reflection of the color. I mean, I think that actually, as much as I said that the darker blue sodalite is going to command a higher price, I think if you manage to get some sodalite that color, it would be pretty high priced as well. But you can see anyway, if you compared the lapis to those obelisks and towers there, it's a totally different blue. Not only that, you can see with the sodalite, it's got these seams that we were talking about before. There's the white. The lapis doesn't have them. The lapis can have little gold mica type seams through it, and sometimes you will actually get dots of the blue through the lapis as well. But generally speaking, sodalite is a navy blue, where the lapis is a royal blue. I think I'm just having a look at this. Just looking at my notes. Yeah, no, I think I've covered it. If you've got more to add to it, just let me know. Just make a comment below. But the other thing to be aware of as well is, yes, people do make fake sodalite, but the genuine sodalite is going to be fairly easy to tell from the fake stuff, okay? Genuine sodalite, as you can see from these obelisks here, will often have a little bit of grey, especially if you find it in the raw form. Now, the other thing is, if you bought some and you're not sure, you can do what is called a streak test, which is, and I think a streak test is where you get a pin or something like that. You just do a little gentle scratch and it should leave a white streak on it. Once again, correct me if I'm wrong. And the other thing is too, just because I say this stuff, don't take my word for it. Do your own research, okay? Duty of care to yourselves. I just want to check my notes again. Actually, I was just having a whinge when I look at my notes. I was having a bit of a complaint because what I'm finding at the moment, whether it's sodalite or any other type crystal, whoever is carving them is, I feel, making them in such a way that they're actually going to tip over fairly easily. And of course, you're going to have a higher risk of them breaking if they fall over. And this is because they seem to be making, I guess the best description is top heavy, okay? I would expect, let's say if you've got a 6 centimetre obelisk, that the base probably needs to be 3 centimetres. And this is simply because I don't want them being knocked over. I don't want them falling over. People will say, well, how can they fall over if they're just sitting on your windowsill or whatever? I've got a mantelpiece, for example. I've got wooden floorboards, okay? It's not super solid. It's a little bit, sounds terrible, a little bit spongy, but movement, if somebody goes running through the house, which I don't have, actually, being quite honest about it, I don't have that, but that would be my concern. Let's say if my nieces and nephews came over to visit or whatever, that they might start running around the house and there becomes natural vibration that might tip the obelisk over. So I'm probably being a little bit over the top. But either way, I still prefer them to be in a better balanced state of how they're cut. Okay, now the other thing too, when it comes to the buying tips, of course, what you want to do is just this straightforward stuff. I've got videos up about that as well on the Crystal Magic playlist, but you want to know, firstly, what are the dimensions of it? I've just pointed out an issue that I find with obelisks and towers, and in fact I'm going to try and find a supplier who can make them in ways that I like them. But I want to know the width, I want to know the height, I want to know the diameter of them, and I want to know the weight of the product before I actually order it, especially if I'm ordering online. I want to be able to see photographs of it from all angles. I've bought some labradorite most recently, and they were little towers, and they're disproportionate, once again, is a problem. But the other thing is too that it doesn't have flash on all sides. And in fact, some of the labradorite that I've bought, I think is a little inferior, just being straight up, because it's like a single facet. It's flash on one side, but it's grey on the others. Now, I got them for a good price, so I can't really complain about it. But if I was paying top dollar, I want to know exactly what I'm buying, because if it's only got one face with flash on it, or if we're talking about the sodalite here, if you've only got good colour or good markings on one side, then I might not want to buy that. The thing is, though, to be very clear about this, because beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, this is the same with these obelisks. If I was looking at these photographs, I would not want the one that is on the far right, where we see where it's got the big white bit on it. And I would not be wanting the one on the far left, because it's got all this grey and cracks and a lot of white. And for me, when I look at it, I think it's pretty poor quality blue. That's not doing it for me. You know what I mean? But I know, because I've sold them and I've met other people, there are other people that will think that those are the most beautiful obelisks in that little batch that you see there. So it really does come down to find out the information, find out which one you're drawn to, because that's the one you should buy. But before you buy it, obviously, you want to look at where you're sourcing it from, where it's actually sourced. You want to know the price. You want to do that price comparison. You want to know the currency that it's being sold in. And because I'm more focused on this now here in Australia, because our dollar is doing so bad. And if it's sold in the US dollars, I'll do a currency conversion before I actually outlay. So these are the kinds of things to consider. And the other thing too is I look at the freight. How much freight are they charging? And are they charging the freight in US or Australian dollars? Because that can be really exorbitant as well. And I might have an idea in my head, for example, if I'm doing a purchase, that I only want to spend $100. I'm not going to spend any more than $100, say, on a crystal. This is for example, right? And if I look at it and it's $60 worth of freight or something like that, you know, I may or may not get it. I might wait for the Australian dollar to come up, something like that, okay? And if you're going for bracelets, I still recommend that you find out the diameter of the beads, okay? And you still want to find out the weight of the bracelet, because that is going to give you an idea of the quality that you're getting as well, and inform your buying decision making. So this video is becoming very long as always, so I'm going to try and speed it up and basically rush through stuff. So I'll try and stick to the transcript is where I'm going. So I guess the first thing to understand about the spiritual metaphysical benefits of sodalite is that it is said to have a very strong vibration attached to it that is believed to promote and support spiritual, universal awareness and development. You know, this means that you get a deeper understanding about the world around us, if you like, and the way we operate within. So there becomes that insight. It's also said to be a crystal that develops and enhances these psychic gifts. Now, I did touch upon them earlier, but we're talking about things like, you know, if some people are uncomfortable with developing the clairs, that's the clairvoyance, the seeing, hearing, knowing, seeing stuff. I said that. Taste, you know, you've got smell, you can smell. Spirit will sometimes give you smells, say, of cookies and that kind of stuff. If people are uncomfortable with that form of communication, they don't need to take that pathway, all right? It's up to you. It's what you want, what you choose to do. However, most people like to at least develop the intuition to have that really strong gut instinct, and sodalite is believed to offer you that. But on the other hand, if you're open to developing your psychic gifts, it's supposed to assist with things like channeling and the auto writing, if you know anything about that. It encourages apparently a very deep inner reflection that is required actually to get to know who and what you are, what it is that makes you tick, you know, to raise your awareness. So it encourages this deep reflection, and you can usually do that through meditation. Now, other benefits include, as we expand our awareness, the life path gets revealed to us. If you're seeking purpose and meaning in your life, you know, the answers to what am I here for, what am I meant to be doing, I feel unfulfilled. Okay, well, Sodalite is said to support you getting your answers to that. If you're somebody that's into astral travel, well, it's said to promote that if that's what you're into, and also to offer protection to you as you do your astral traveling. Some people want to be able to have dreams. They want to remember their dreams at the best of times, but if they're into prophecy, the seeing dreams, the predictions, and that kind of stuff, they want to be able to recall them, and they also want to be able to understand them, because dreams quite often, same with the spiritual or psychic visions, present with symbolism, and it's up to us to interpret them. So these are all very important aspects. Now, the other benefits are said to include purification. I mean, I wasn't sure. I often am not sure whether or not to put this in the physical or into the spiritual, but I've put it here. Environmental protection, purification and cleansing. Sick building syndrome is that scenario where, you might be working with 50 people, but all of a sudden 30% of them have come down with some unknown flu or virus or whatever. So it's said to purify the environment in that way. And also, people are encouraged to put a little bit by their computer to protect and block against electromagnetic radiation. When we talk about, I've put a special section in here today saying the Magicke, because what I did notice was that it's supposed to protect, as part of its qualities, your artistic ideas against theft of intellectual property. What else have I got here? It's recommended for astrologists, numerologists, tarot readers, and other forms of oracle readers as well. And if you're an artist, it's recommended for you to help inspire unique ideas, Can I expand on that with my vocabulary? Not today, apparently. Anyway, it's also recommended as a talisman for those people. That would be for the artist to inspire and also to offer the intellectual protection, but also for scientists and researchers who are trying to stimulate new ways of thinking, new approaches to their research subjects. And also, if you're afraid of flying, if you've got a fear of flying, then it would be recommended that you wear sodalite as a talisman, or at least hold it, perhaps get a palm stone, a worry stone, or something like that. So moving on to the physical benefits. So when it comes to the physical healing properties, of course, remember, you can use your crystals in conjunction with your treatment plan, but you wouldn't use it as standalone. As I'm reading this out to you, I'm seeing that the disclaimer is not on here, so I will actually put it on before I actually publish this video. But either way, the idea is that if you've got any of these physical conditions, you might want to consider wearing or meditating or with sodalite, or put it on your bedside table. If you've got sleep issues, you might want to put it under your pillow, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's got a range of physical attributes, and that includes your metabolism and the endocrine system, which is huge, because when we talk about that, we're talking about if you've got immune problems, we're talking about if you struggle with weight management, hormone problems, things like that. It's believed to actually purify the endocrine system and support healthy function of all the body organs there, and that includes, did I say pancreas? When we talk about the skeletal system, it's supposed to support bone and muscle health, and for bones and muscles actually to repair and regenerate, because it's supposed to offer healing at a cellular level, and that includes when you mix the endocrine with the skeletal system and those benefits, you're looking at calcium absorption, and even calcium buildup, repair there. So it would be recommended for people with issues like spinal or back problems, or even neck problems, or if they suffer from osteoporosis. Now, once again, these are information or tips that I've received from other people, or I've found on my research. I actually don't have experience of seeing the benefits of this, so I look forward to your feedback. Other attributes is said to include things such as if you suffer from water retention, and even the hydration of the cells. It's supposed to support the heart function as well as regulation of blood pressure. And if you've got a racing pulse or a heart, it's supposed to actually work with that. One of the other things that I noted was it's supposed to be good for managing blood as far as blood purification. So if you suffer from things like diabetes, low blood pressure or high blood pressure. It's supposed to regulate that, and it's supposed to also help you manage the glycemic index with your blood sugar. What else have we got here? I've got repetition certainly in my notes, that's for sure. If you suffer from things like throat problems with your vocal cords or your larynx, if you struggle with hoarseness and laryngitis, it would be recommended. Once again, I'm seeing the benefits for me to actually use this. I don't know if you're aware, you may hear that I have a bit of a smoker's throat. I definitely do have a smoker's throat because I do smoke, but shh, don't tell anyone. But the other thing is, I actually have learned more recently that my hoarse throat is related to one of my health conditions because I've got a couple myself. So when I look at this, it's like, I'm thinking maybe I should be including Sodalite as part of my own repertoire. Not for this one, not for the next one, because it's supposed to regulate symptoms of menopause. And if you've got issues such as premenstrual tensions and headaches and all of that kind of stuff, it's supposed to be beneficial. Same as if you've got any form of inflammation or fever, it's supposed to help out there. If you suffer from sinus infections and cold and flu, it's supposed to help with recovery from those conditions. And as far as digestion goes, it's supposed to alleviate acid in the system and any other of those types of digestive disorders. Digestive disorders can actually even be things like constipation or, the other way. It could even actually be the irritable bowel syndrome, stuff like that. So it might be worth giving it a shot and letting us know how it works for you. Some of the other ones that are recommended here is it's supposed to aid a baby's development. Now, with this business of aging, I've got to say, I'm writing it down, but I'm not convinced, okay? I don't know if they're trying to say that it slows down the effects of aging, because it keeps your body in healthy function. That might be the case. If you've got sleep problems like insomnia, it would be recommended that you actually put a piece under your pillow at night time or beside your bed if you've got a bedside table. Each to their own. I think I mentioned that. But anyway, we've got a lot of emotional benefits and psychological benefits with Sodalite as well. So today I'm breaking it down into the attributes for the mind and the attributes for the emotion. And just to remind you, I know when we're caught up in the emotions, it doesn't seem likely, okay? But basically, the idea is that what we think, we create. So therefore, whatever maladaptive or dysfunctional thought processing that we've got going on is going to impact on our emotional and physical health. But we all process information differently. Some people will process the underlying thought by seeing and recognizing the emotion. For other people, they actually recognize that there is a thought before they become aware of their emotional response. So that might be a bit confusing. Play that back if you feel like it. But anyway, I'm looking at the thoughts and the ideas that come first. Well, they certainly come first in this video. Okay, so it's recommended for people who are very oversensitive, defensive, impulsive, or prone to anxiety attacks, because this is part of the emotional balance. But to unpack those emotions, yes, we've got to look at what we are thinking. Is it rational? Is it logical? Are we thinking clearly about those scenarios that present to us and that create an emotional trigger for us? So the idea is that Sodalite brings those repressed thoughts and ideas through to the surface so that we can actually process them and come to a rational conclusion. This involves developing a greater awareness, not only of what others are going to do, being able to predict other people's behaviors is often leads to disaster, shall we say, because we don't know. We can think they might be going to do X and Y, but we cannot be sure until they do it. So the idea is to become more aware of ourselves and how we respond in any situations so that we can actually make the best of those situations that arise. So when we're developing awareness, it starts with self. It really does. We become aware of ourselves, we understand ourselves, we start to understand other people better, and we get a higher consciousness, a higher conscious awareness of what is going on around us and within us. And this supports our manifestation processes. We're able to clearly plan because we've got a logical and rational approach to life. We can clearly plan our goals, and we've got a better chance of achieving them. And we also are going to have a better chance of achieving our goals when we've got this positive, optimistic attitude with the purpose. And this is all the stuff that Sodalite is believed to work with. Now, the more rational we become, you must have heard that saying that, I can't see clearly for the forest, or I've got my rose tinted goggles on. I'm not seeing things for what they are. I'm trying to talk myself into believing that everything's wonderful. This is the stone of truth. It's about seeing things for what they are, accepting them, and then working within that. And the other saying too is, when your eyes are clouded with emotion, it's impossible to make a clear, rational decision that is going to be a healthy one. So the idea is, by working on the way that we think and unpacking any unhelpful thinking styles, we're going to have a much better outcome in regard to decisions. So as we make these decisions that are positive, our self-image improves, we have greater confidence, our self-esteem improves, we trust ourselves, we're honest with ourselves, we are authentic, we present ourselves authentically to other people, and we're not faking it. There's no fake it until you make it stuff when you're living authentically. You are living in the truth of who you are, but you're not doing that business of, well, this is me and this is who I am. I don't need improvement. We are all doing ongoing growth and development. So self-acceptance and being your authentic self is actually recognizing there's room for improvement, but it doesn't make us a bad person, that we cannot be all things to all people at all times. So the other thing is it enhances the way we express and communicate. Certainly, the way we express our feelings to those people around us. It helps us to manage our boundaries with other people, how to set them, how to maintain them. And what I really like, because I keep coming back to this business of unhelpful thinking styles today, I'm talking about neural repatterning. Now, if you look in my self-help videos, I've actually put up a number of videos. I did it as a series on addressing unhelpful thinking styles so that you can recognize it within yourself, unpack them and change them. And this becomes the transformative process. The other point to making healthy decisions is about being grounded, being centered in the moment, and being objective, taking a balanced and practical viewpoint to those problems that present to us. Now, Sodalite is said to help with all of these things, as well as the mental alertness, shall we say. So when new information comes in, we're able to process it rapidly. When we can process rapidly, when we can see a problem, identify the problem, and we're coming from that calm space, then we're better at making those quick decisions that we've got to do sometimes as part of preventing a snowball becoming into a mountain, that kind of thing. So it does promote understanding as well. What else have I got here? Just a very brief example about unhelpful thinking styles. Those people that are a worrywart, this might be you, it might be somebody that you know. Something happens and they will always think the worst, it's not the worst. And then finally they get the answer. It's like, oh, thank God, when you had to go for a blood test, I thought you were being diagnosed with a terminal disease. That's catastrophic thinking. And that can become embedded in a person's psyche. So when we talk about repatterning, it's changing the way they see these problems. Oh, you're going for a blood test? Oh, that's, hope everything is okay. Is it just maintenance? Maybe they're checking their vitamin B levels, whatever, not jumping to conclusions and these unhappy endings. The other benefits too of Sodalite apparently is that as you develop all of these skills, because this isn't just about thoughts, this is about developing the skills to manage life, manage relationships, and you become a better team player. You're able to work within a group, you're able to develop connection and relationships with other team members, and where there's a closer, shall we say, sense of camaraderie. The other point here though is if people are teachers, it's actually recommended that teachers wear Sodalite, as I stumble over my words, as part of communicating effectively. I keep saying Sodalite's the one for me at the moment. I'm just going to gloss over this slide because you can see here that there is all these different emotional benefits. And that includes, for people that are angry, aggressive, if people are bound by fear, locked into anxiety or paranoia or whatever, they are going to feel better. Let me rephrase, I can't say they will, of course. That would be wrong of me. I would be very surprised if they didn't feel better from using Sodalite, because that's going to help them feel more peaceful and more secure and more safe. Now, just a reminder too that once again, it is about you programming your crystal. Sodalite is really good at bringing the shadow aspect to the front, because this is unleashing the unconscious through to the conscious so that we can heal it. Now, the shadow aspect of self is one that actually we will quite often prefer not to actually see. A lot of people will ignore it, they'll push it down because they don't like what the mirror shows them. Everybody wants to believe that they're a good person, that they don't do hurtful or harmful things to others. But sometimes we all do with the best intentions. And to look at the shadow is actually to be totally honest and go, you know what, actually, what I did back then, I didn't see it at the time. That wasn't my intention, but yes, that was hurtful. We can't undo the past. I mean, you might be able to make restitution with people, but that's not always possible. So it becomes a case of forgiveness, okay? If we become locked into guilt, then guilt keeps us literally locked. We won't be able to move forward. So, you know what I mean? You're just stuck. A person becomes stuck there. So to overcome guilt, we must forgive, and that is self-forgiveness. And so the idea of working with that is to be non-judgmental. When you see those aspects of yourself that you don't like, recognize it, acknowledge it, even own the fact that, maybe I let myself down in my own expectations. I think the way around that is to recognize we're all growing at all times. We all make mistakes at different times. We could use that nobody is perfect. There is a truth to that saying. But on the other hand, we are all perfect right now. We're all growing. That's what we're here for, to grow and to evolve and to become better than we were yesterday. And this is part of self-forgiveness as well. I'm just looking at my notes here because I could do a whole, I don't know, even 4 hours talking about the shadow. But there is something I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about this mother and father guilt down in the messages, because I think that's where it's most relevant for this video. Before I do, though, I just want to make the point that when we talk about, I guess, one of the greatest gifts that Sodalite can give us, it's actually that aspect of emotional honesty with ourselves, that steps up beyond being honest with the way we feel, because we can all get out there. We see it all the time. People saying, what you did made me feel, I feel really sad when you do X and Y, or I feel really sad, mad, glad. Okay, well, that's okay. You own your feelings. You're seeing them, okay? And that's part of growth. The first thing we have to do is acknowledge we have these feelings. We own them. They're ours. Okay, but we are responsible for our feelings. And that's the next step, to actually recognize that actually those people didn't make us feel X or Y. We feel X or Y because we do have an issue with X or Y. And it might be a valid issue, okay? I mean, for instance, I know people that, or one person comes to mind, she had an issue with getting in a relationship with a person who was an alcoholic. The person wasn't nasty, but she had a real issue with it, because obviously when a person is under the influence, they become a different person sometimes. And so that's what she was finding. The person that she was with who was drunk was not the person that she met and fell in love with. So his drinking, she reacted to quite badly. He rightly put her in a place. Well, I say rightly, but he had a truth to what he said. He said, I don't have a problem with drinking. I like drinking. He said, you don't like me drinking. It is your problem. Okay. Now, isn't that harsh but true? Okay, so if she's to own her problem, it is the recognition that actually she doesn't like it when he's drinking, but she has now power and control over him. She will have to leave him, which is what she did, because she could not make that leap. And I've got to be honest, I couldn't either, okay? So I'm not judging that person for it. But if part of growth in life is about being emotionally comfortable and we're in a situation that is not comfortable for us, then we're looking at a situation that is potentially emotionally unsafe. So, yes, we have to be in an emotional space of safety, I guess. I'm interested in your thoughts here. I don't want to tell people what they should think or not think or whatever, but the next step from emotional ownership and recognition is actually emotional responsibility, making choices. Free will comes in. When it comes to the chakras, it's pretty straightforward, okay? Because at the end of the day, Sodalite has those blues about it, it has the whites. So most of the time, it will be working with your crown. Let me rephrase. It will be working with your brow chakra and your throat chakra. It's about communication and seeing, clear seeing, okay? But the more white it's got in it, the more of the crown chakra and the divine energy, the light and love, shall you say, of the universe, the more is associated with that. If it's got a little bit of pink in it, of course, you're going to be working with a bit of the heart chakra. And in fact, that's the self esteem stuff. That's to raise your self love, shall we say, and self forgiveness. If you've got some yellow in there, that's about instilling the confidence. So I've actually talked about uses as we've gone through this video, but as I've mentioned, you can use it as jewelry, as a pendant. You can have it as a tumble, pop it in your bra, wear it in a pouch on your person or whatever. Just be mindful it may actually break if you drop it. Certainly great for meditating with and holding. You can use it as a talisman, of course, for protection. You can use it as part of your healing grids if that's what you're into. I would say, though, that if you want to have it as an ornament and a bigger piece, I'm pretty sure it does come in carvings. I'm not into skulls, but I've seen sodalite skulls before. So there's a whole range of them. But I think at the moment, if I was going to be buying any of the carved items, I probably would be looking for a nice sphere on one of those little pedestals to secure it, because I'm not liking the way they create their towers at the moment. And I did discuss that. So, yeah, my preference would be for the spheres, the circles. So, from a message perspective, okay, this is where I'm going to draw upon my message would be related to my experience of seeing people that buy it and who is drawn to it. Most of the time, it's actually been women who, it's politely put as empty nest syndrome, but I would say it's more than that. It's where the children have moved out of home. Mum's not just trying to find a purpose and find her spot in life. She's actually probably copying it from 100 directions with children turning around. And, children, I'm sorry, even young adult children are just amazingly incredible at throwing that mirror up of judgment and letting a person know where they perceive their failings are. So it would be dealing with all that you let me down. Even actually, if the kids aren't doing the you let me down business, I know many mothers that are providing adult care to children with mental health issues, and they blame themselves for what's going on. They feel very burdened by it, that perhaps if they'd been a different or better mother or whatever, then the kids would be well. But the reality is that, life takes the course it does. It doesn't always work out the way we thought it would when we were younger. There was a key point that was there that I had coming through that sometimes it's not the kids actually beating mum up. Sometimes it's mum beating mum up. I'm saying mum, but dads probably go through it as well. But, the mums feeling that they let their children down. But either way, there's this really heavy burden of guilt. So it's not just about empty nest syndrome. It's this heavy, heavy emotional burden, which almost cripples them. So the message of Sodalite is basically, the and it's going to vary from person to person. If it is a mature woman with adult children, as I've just described, it would be let go of guilt, release it. It's past, it's done. You can't go back. You can't change the way things are. All you can do is work with what you've got today and forgive yourself, because we don't know what our divine plan was. She doesn't know. It might have been part of the plan. In fact, I would have to say, as much as it boggles the imagination, it probably was for some larger purpose that these experiences happen. I could go into that, but I won't because the video is getting so very long. But the other thing too is that if it's a younger mum with, say, young children, I would be saying there's a caution with this, right? As far as you've got these wonderful gifts of God, creations, these little people, okay? And nobody is going to come out of this the perfect mother. I don't know. Look, there may be some, but I've never met any who can turn around and say, with all honesty, that my mum was the best in the world. You know what I mean? And the reason why I say that is because everybody, it doesn't matter how good they are, there's always an area for improvement, so what I would be saying to a young mum probably is, this is a message to you that to do the best that you can, right? Don't expect to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. It just doesn't happen like that. But just do the best that you can, because the bottom line is in years to come, when you start to feel self-doubt, because this is part of motherhood and parenthood as well, you will at least be able to be honest with yourself and say, I tried my best. And if that's all that you've got to hold on to, then that's okay. You'll have a clear conscience. But I mean, the other thing is too, it's not just about parenting. It's kind of like when we aim to do our best in all situations. And I think there's a saying by Don Miguel Ruiz about striving for personal excellence. Okay. When we strive for personal excellence, we tend to be able to cope with things that go bung, because life's full of bungs. Because we know in our heart we actually couldn't do any better than we did, and we gave it our best shot. And then the other thing is too, if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we might not have given it 100%. We might have only given it 90. But if we look back and we're kind to ourselves and fair, we think, well, I only had 90 to give that day. I wasn't positioned to give myself, and it might be for a couple of months because of ongoing stuff going around. So I guess the idea is of forgive yourself, release judgment, strive for personal best in all activities. That would be the message, I think. So as far as Sodalite is concerned with keeping it looking its best, fairly simply, it can just do with a bit of a brush. You can wipe it off most instances to get rid of any dust, because unless you've got it set away, it will accumulate, the same as anything that's left on a bench. But if you've got jewellery and that kind of thing that's set in pendants, you might need to give it a bit of a wash. As always, a cup of mild soapy water of, say, lukewarm temperature. That will allow you to let it soak for a couple of minutes. I generally say 5 minutes, and then give it a bit of a brush with a soft toothbrush, rinse it off, and then dry it with a soft cloth. So keeping it clean is fairly simple. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. I'm at the end of the day, basically, for me. But then when you want to charge it, if you're doing that business, if you're into the metaphysical and you want to recharge and clear and cleanse it and that kind of thing, and I do believe that Sodalite will need to be cleansed because it's working with some pretty heavy emotions for the best part, then obviously selenite is my thing. I always put them on selenite. I just find it's easier. It's actually cheaper. Once you've bought your selenite, you don't have to keep going out and buying sage or Palo Santo like we see here. I do use the incense and the herbs at different times as drawn, but I think for me, as I always say, if it's a coloured rock and we're exposing it to strong sunlight that we have in Australia, I wouldn't leave it out in sunlight for great lengths of time. Filtered sunlight, yes, on the back patio table. Full moons, perfectly fine. Even if you've got a polished sphere or a carving or whatever, it's going to cope okay if you rest it in a, what are they called? Planter with your plants, to earth it and ground it and connect it and that kind of thing. The only thing that you've got to be really careful of is that it is relatively soft and it can actually become scratched quite easily. So you would just take a little bit of care about what crystals you storing it next to, if you've got it in a jewellery box and things like that. And if I was using selenite, I would want to put them either onto a polished slab of selenite to clear them, or to put a little cloth there to protect the sodalite from being scratched by the selenite, because selenite is quite hard and it can be a bit scratchy. If you can think of anything else, if there's any other ways that you might cleanse and clear and recharge your sodalite, please do leave a comment and let us know. For now, though, my friends, if you've managed to make it this far into this very long video, I just want to say thank you for being part of my journey. I truly appreciate you visiting. I hope you'll stick around. I hope you'll even consider subscribing, and thank you for being patient with me. My little puppy has come alive now, and to be honest, I'm absolutely exhausted. So I'm going to wish you all a very happy, blessed day, blessed week. Take care. I shall catch you on the next videos. Bye-bye for now.